All right, hello everyone. We are going to continue on just a little bit. I'm going to set up my bag more for a Tour 10 bag again. You see I am going with the rock just to kind of keep things a little bit more fair for my stream. Of course, if you have a Thor, 4, 5, 6, you're going to still have some very good backspin. You won't have near the backspin that you see on mine, but you might have about 70 backspin and about 60 topspin or so. And of course, 229, 232, somewhere in there. Accuracy will be very similar. You will have less than a 4-ball guide, but all things considered, still quite the manageable club. It'll be very comparable to rock, but with a little bit of extra distance and less ball guide. So aside from that, and of course, the extra curl that you can get on the rock is something that'll be a little bit more favorable. And that's kind of the reason that we are going to go for it here, is to have all these extra little tools, even though we're giving up some of the topspin, some of the actual carry. But if you were to check out my first part of my stream, you can see it is still very manageable to make it to the shootouts and give yourself the opportunity to get to the shootout and give yourself a high probability chance of winning if you can master the shootouts. If you have not checked out my shootouts, I highly recommend doing so. I have Tour 10 very mapped. Aside from the new holes, everything is very well mapped out. I will do my best to try to get the new holes, but it might take some work. So here you are seeing we are getting this hole. What I usually use on this hole is a katana ball. I highly recommend that, at minimum, use the katana here, potentially up to as much as a kingmaker as well. But here you can see just when landing on this part of the fairway, I'm going to have enough curl. So I'm going to kind of anticipate 7 rings. I'm going to use about half power here, maybe 8 rings. There's about 8. I'm going to just gently curl it, and like I mentioned, I'm going to use about half power. And that should be more or less put me kind of grooved right down the center of the fairway, or close to the center of the fairway, and more than enough to complete this shot. Like I mentioned, had I had a little bit of a headwind or whatever, I would upgrade to a kingmaker and just go a little bit more full. You only have to basically make it to the fairway, foremost, maybe 20 yards into the fairway, and you have enough club to reach the green. So you're seeing me do kind of, a little bit, you could say I did a little bit too much. Even where this guy is, plenty good enough. You can even be a little bit shorter than that. Of course, the farther you do make it, the easier your shot will be, but you will still be okay. As you can see, I'm not even to max katana here for my setup, and we are going to play quite a bit of curl here. I usually go right around 1 topspin. I do like to just get a sense of how in play the tree is, and it appears to not be that much of a factor. So here you're going to see me just kind of overplay, to the right a little bit. One of the biggest reasons to use katana here is for this. Now I am going to use the shot button like I did in method number 1, and we're going to go right around 6 rings here. Just going to get this off. Like I mentioned, it is a little bit uphill, so you're going to see me underplay the wind just a tiny bit. Let's see what this looks like in terms of a 6-ring adjustment. That was pretty spot on. I just missed on the right edge, so that was a very good effort. I don't know how many times you guys have played this hole, but if you are just coming in and seeing this kind of for the first time, that is a very well played shot. It is very hard to get this albatross on this hole. If I've gotten it, it's been very few times, 1 or 2. It's a very low number. Now granted, I don't just sit here and play Tour 10 for a living and rely on Tour 10 for coins. I do that more in Tour 11. so I'm a little bit more familiar with Tour 11 than I am Tour 10. But with that being said, I can still execute the shots. Now, I do want to make a mention about the shot that you just saw, because it is perfectly fine to play it that way. I do want to, it's not the best of all shots in my opinion, but if you do roll it through that rough, chances are it does funnel out and at least make it down here to where you can easily make the green. So that's one of the reasons that I was mentioning from originally, that you can have a little bit of a shorter drive and you can still top spin it off that rough and get it to run out down to the green. As soon as you funnel it onto the green, as you can see, it releases enough to where you would have at most, I feel like this is like a 15-foot putt, even though, the distances are a little conscrewed, but, it's a very short putt. It's probably, more like, 21, 22 feet. But the way that it actually looks, it feels a little bit closer, and the way that it plays is a little bit closer. So not the end of the world. Let's see what kind of wind. Oh, yes. So I don't think I have downwind covered on my stream. So this is very nice to see. I'm pretty sure on my Tour 10 shootouts, this is not covered. So I do want to make a note of this, as this is one of the first times that I'm seeing this in quite some time. And I'm really hoping this guy doesn't hit it into the cliff. I was worried that he would. At the very least, I hope he doesn't quit and we actually get to play this shot. So hopefully, he hangs tight, does not forfeit, because I am going to, just like he did, go for the shot. Now keep in mind what I'm doing with my backspin. I am upping it quite a bit more than I usually would. Now, one of the things that I do mention is I tell you guys that I usually go about 30% more for the wind. I'm going to back off and do about 20-ish% more wind here. So instead of going the usual, anytime that we're going towards min club, we're going to crank up the backspin, and I might go to say, let's try 14.5 rings. And you see I did use the shot button technique. I went just over 14 rings. And let's just take a look at what this looks like. And there you see it is coming in right at the pin, and it is going to just ease its way down the hill towards the hole. So that is how you can successfully play a tailwind. I am very grateful to get that, because I don't know if you guys have seen my Tour 10 shootouts, but I have had, countless hours, probably 6-7 hours of footage just to get that one shot. So quite a bit of delay to get that one, and I'll do the best that I can to actually splice that out and just basically add that to the Tour 10 playoff holes for you guys, so you can easily access that. So there you see, I am continuing to play with the shot button. I know I didn't really talk about it too much there, but notice how I'm using it as an aim tool, and I will continue to start talking about it. I didn't necessarily bring it up, but if you watch my last video, for most approach shots, I did address using the shot button as my aim tool for counting rings more precisely. Now, I don't usually use this method, very often. And here you can see another fellow rock A tier. I do believe we probably just have enough wind to get to that other fairway. So I do want to just kind of make a comment about that. If you picked up the new earth balls, that can be your opportunity to beat it to that other fairway. Other options for that would include a snowman ball as one of them. And unfortunate to see there, you can see that it is still a very risk-reward shot. But just as my playing opponent had done, I am also going to go for that shot as well. So let me just take a look at what a snowman looks like. I do believe it's probably going to be a little short. And we are just going to club up. One of the biggest reasons to kind of, go into the Masters tournament would be to get a nice collection of these balls. And notice what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go at an overplay. There's 5 rings, there's 10 rings, there's 12 rings. Plus, in addition to that, I'm going to do some curl like this. And you're seeing I'm just making it to that second fairway, which will basically give you that opportunity to go for the eagle. So you see sacrificing a little bit of yards. You might have to go for a little bit more of a berserker, which means your tournament play. And let's see if this guy can't recover. Let's see what he does with his balls. Depending on what he does, if this guy, goes for birdie, gets birdie, I'll let him come back. I mean, but with the water hazard that he put it in, and with that second shot, we might be looking at 5 or 6 shots to play this hole. Might just take up a little bit too much precious time, and I'd kind of rather just kind of go to the next stream, to the next hole instead. So let me just try to rush through things a little bit. Now notice what I'm doing with the shot trail, keeping it a little bit long. Notice I am in power, so I'm going to need to go at least minimum 15 rings from this point. Oh shoot, I'm not using the shot button. That's roughly around 10 rings. Like I mentioned, I don't use it very often. We are going to need to go into some power. I do want to mention I'm probably going to play about 18, 19 rings here and go into at least 3 rings of power. So notice what I'm doing with that. I'm gently curling it. I don't want to start bringing the bunker into play, so I'm staying a little cautious. It wasn't a real holdout opportunity with the way that the wind presented itself, plus not having the side spin ball. So you're going to see me play a little bit more conservative, more into the center of the green. Maybe I get lucky and say 1 ring, great balls or whatever. Overplay the curl accidentally. But aside from that, not going to get too, aggressive there, and we're just going to play for eagle when we don't get a win that we like. So more casual with the way that I went about that. And notice how I kind of, I went away from the shot error there. That's kind of my that's the way that I usually aim. So it was just kind of force of habit that I did that there. But I'll try my best to, because I do want to talk a little bit more about that method. But you can just see that, saving these balls, and that's another reason, especially if you're in Tour 10, Tour 11, you want to be kind of striving towards, master tournaments for the most part. So, you can get those good balls and get a decent amount of them stocked up. Here you're seeing we are getting just about as bad as a wind that we're going to ever see on this hole. And I want to just kind of briefly address this. Make sure if you get a wind this bad that you're kind of setting up to just kind of easily go through there and don't do too much extra. So here you're just going to see me beat it full and not really curl it anything, and I'm just going to try to shoot that gap more than anything. This is as bad as a wind we can get for a rock driver, so we're kind of forcing our hand a little bit. So we just want to play safe here, and knowing we have that luxury of 2-3 rings on each side is kind of the nice thing. That's why we use rock over extra mile, for instance. And you can see, even with the worst wind possible, we're able to get it out there far enough that there's I might even, depending on the next wind, I might still have a Goliath at it. So it just goes to show you that you don't need to really force your hand. You just need to play smart, make it to the shootouts. That's how you have success. It's not, so, extra mile, it's more of an experienced club. It's for really great players. So what you see a lot of great players do is they talk about, oh, you have to use extra mile. And so you see everybody using extra mile because everybody's using it. So if your timing isn't as good
as some of those, expert players, you're better off just going down to rock and trying to perfect your timing a little bit more and honing in on that, as opposed to getting really aggressive. Now, one of the things that I do want to mention here, you can see kind of the way my shot trail is. We are going to play very, cautious here. One of the things that I do want to mention is make sure, so we are going to use the shot button here again. So there's 5 rings. We are actually going to go 9 rings here. We want to make sure that we give ourselves ample opportunity to get this over the rough since we're into power. So notice how the shot is into power, and you can see that it's just kind of going to gently take the slope. You don't want to give yourself the opportunity to make a mistake. And anytime you're into power and not at max club, for example, that 1 per ring you can throw out the window. It's going to play more like 0.9 per ring. So you need to factor that in to your decision making as to what shot you're going to do. And that's why you see me going more rings than necessary. I don't want to short hit it, accidentally clip that rough on the very edge because I played the ring spot up, which is something that could very easily happen. So use your shot button if you are not precise or have, excellent vision to kind of focus on a spot and say, oh, I went about 5 rings. The way I do it, I usually don't use the shot button because it's a little bit faster not to. And what you'll see me do is I just kind of free air it, and I'm focusing on a spot, and I'm just kind of pulling it to that. But I want to show you just how you can kind of manipulate the shot button to your advantage and have great success with using, similar precision to what I do. Now, what I do is a little bit more of an estimation method, but it's a smart estimation method. So sometimes I'll pull the screen. I might say, I didn't quite pull that 5, for example. Maybe I feel like I pulled it 4.5 because I was going fast. You'll see the way that I move is very methodical, but it's also very quick because of the fact that I utilize a lot of the shot clock to determine what I need to do to the shot, and I rush my setup, which you will get better over time doing that, but it does take quite a bit of practice. So what you'll see me do is I kind of estimate. If I say, oh, I pulled 4.5 this time, well then with my next pull, if I'm pulling say 12 rings, I'll try to make sure that next time I pull, 5, just a little bit more, and just try to reset it to kind of the 10 number or roughly in the 10. And I mean, you've seen the way that I play. I've always played that way, and I can still have quite a bit of precision, just kind of having good focus on the screen. But if you really want to, especially if your vision isn't as well, then using the shot button is going to be a really useful tool. So let's see what we got here. That's coming in just a tiny bit hot, but not too bad overall. Pretty impressive shot. Anytime that I get a win like this, I will usually play the fairway, and I play this pretty spot up for the most part. Now, this is just a tiny bit shorter than I like it here, but I think I will be okay. I am going to play it here with about half a bar of backspin, more or less. Now, typically I might adjust the shot to make it more in line with the hole. You're not going to see me do that here. And you see I'm right at min club. I will use the shot button, but I'm going to try to go, there's 5 rings, and there's an extra 2.5, and that's what I'll use for my aim. So maybe I play a mid-club adjustment. The great ball wasn't necessarily what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get it to hold its line a little bit. And it is coming in just slightly fast, but not too bad overall. So there you see roughly 2-3 yards. Make sure you get it up the hill. That's foremost what you want, especially if your opponent goes first. You just want to play more of the strategic shot. Think about what it's going to take to beat your opponent, as opposed to necessarily hitting the ideal maybe hole out. That's the advice I can give you guys. When I play myself, I play a little bit more reckless, a little more careless. I don't care if I'm close and beat the guy. I'm just going to probably go for the hole out if it's me. But I do want to show you and demonstrate to you that a lot of my videos, if I see my opponent's 7 yards, I'm just looking for the shot that's going to hit me 6 or less. So you're seeing me try to play more according to that. And you know, for the most part, you know, it's very easy to play that way. The only thing that you don't want to do is, I know one of the things that you can do is you can get a little bit of nervous energy maybe on those shootouts, and you might get a little careless with the way that you do it because you're a little on edge. And you know, I don't usually have feelings of anxiety like that because I'm comfortable with the setup. I know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to hit the shot. So I recommend that you approach the shots in this a similar fashion if you want to have you know, good success with the shootouts, and you know, limit your mistakes a little bit. So keep those tips in mind. We are going to keep on trucking here with an approach. You see we got another very similar side wind. You can see, you know, one of the things that I'm doing with rock is I'm kind of limiting myself a little bit distance wise. So, you know, playing that master setup or playing for golden shot, for example, picking up some berserkers can be useful here, as you don't want to not quite make it to that fairway. And as you see, that guy with the Apoc 4 did just make it to the fairway, and you know, that's kind of my goal, is to similarly roll it there. But however, with me having a rock like I do, you know, I have to overexert to get it to where that guy just did. So we're going to do very similar to what you just saw me do. You know, I zoom out here, there's 5 rings, there's 10 rings. I'm going to do the same thing as I did last time, you know, play about 11 rings, but also in addition to that, curl it just to kind of counter that wind. And let's see what we can do here. And let's see if I can't get similar positioning to what we just saw with that guy. So my goal is to just kind of scoot it through and get it up to where he just did. So if you are playing with a little bit less distance club, you need to make up for it somewhere in these new holes. And that's kind of what I was mentioning. If you saw my first part to this stream, these new holes are so challenging. They definitely belong in Tour 10 for sure. But it's so funny to see them in Juniper Point because the other Juniper Point holes have been so easy that seeing these new bear holes, which are like super long, to where you could, you know, potentially not make this eagle with a headwind, is just crazy. It's just a crazy thing to see that, you know, you have half of a course that's super easy and the other half, which is now, you know, extremely hard. So it's just a funny thing to see, and you just want to focus on, more than anything, just getting your eagle foremost. So here you're going to see me play more towards, you know, you always want to leave yourself a little bit of room here. So here you're going to see me play more towards, you know, 2-3 into power, because I know I'm going to need to go at least 15 rings from this point. So, you know, that's one of the things that you always want to mentally be thinking. Here we're going to set up in the middle just like last time. There's 5. I should have spun. It would have made making this adjustment a little bit easier. Here you're going to see me just use 15 rings. That's about spot on where I want to go. And just a little bit of curl, nothing to get too carried away with. Like I said, you know, I don't want to start bringing that bunker into play, so you're going to see me play a little bit more safe. It would be nice to give it a run at the hole, but like I said, you know, going at the hole, especially without a nice side spin ball where it's like 7 side spin, you can potentially bring the rough, you can bring the bunker into play with only 1 ring of margin of error. So you do not want to get that aggressive to where a 1 great ball is going to cost you the hole. So definitely keep that in mind when you are playing your holes here. And notice what this guy's doing with this pitch. You want to make sure that you're picking, you know, a surface that you feel comfortable with, and you are checking out the way that that surface is going to affect the ball. So we are going to go to shootout, you know, as long as he doesn't forfeit on me. We are going to, you know, make it to shootout here. So, and he did forfeit, unfortunately. Guys have no patience, unfortunately, so unfortunately we're not going to see a shootout. once again, you only see that kind of behavior kind of in the later tours. Guys will do that in 9, 10, 11. I'm prone to do it, but I'll only do it I would have done it back in the fairway. If I don't want to play out a hole and I'm trying to trophy up or whatever, I'll do it, way beforehand and just kind of get it over with, just so I can move on to the next hole more promptly. If I'm going for chess or whatever, just save some time. Here you are seeing, this is going to be quite the challenging hole for rock, but not going to be impossible. So I am glad that we are getting this with rock, just so we can kind of attack it together and you can kind of see a strategic way to play it. Now, if you did pick up the new earth balls, blue marbles, they are going to be, kind of useful in these downhill scenarios, to where you can take advantage of some of that extra push from the wind, especially if you have, my ball, my club. A Pak 4, this guy has a distinct advantage on me. He can hit a very nice shot here, and as you're seeing, he actually did. That's what I was mentioning. He can easily kind of pull this off, whereas I have to work to get this eagle. So let's see what I can do here. I just want to kind of size up a landing zone and see what it's looking like. So it's looking like this landing zone could be pretty good. So you might see me just kind of hit off to the side here and kind of pick that as a target. Now I do just want to kind of visualize this part of the pond here, just to see where I am, because I am going to back off to a Titan and make sure that I can still get there with a Titan. And I do believe that I probably can, but it's going to be pretty close to full power. So you're going to see me play accordingly. Here you're going to see me use about this much power, and let's just see how this goes. And it's just kind of sizing it up, getting a feel for it. Looks like I might be just a tiny bit short, but it might roll out. Just short. So I should have used just a little bit more. Had that got to the fairway, it would have been an easy tie. Unfortunately, this guy might, pick up the win on me if I can't get my perfect ball timing, unfortunately. So let's hope that we can get to the playoff, because this stream is more about the playoffs than it is about, maliciously winning or whatever. So hopefully my timing here is on point. I usually am, probably at least 70-80% to make this under normal circumstances, but that doesn't mean, it's guaranteed by any sense of the word. But there you are seeing perfect ball. Notice how I didn't even play any break, really. I just put it kind of inside left. And here we're seeing one of the old holes. I'm glad to see this, though. I don't like seeing it with a Titan, but we will do what we have. And you can see, I usually play a little bit more towards max here. And you can see what I do with my shot. I do like to hit this a little bit higher up onto the hill here, so you're going to see me play it, accordingly. Now, you do want to go at least, I would say, an additional 20% here. So instead of playing 7 rings, we're going to go, just to be safe here, we're going to go 10. I'm going to do very little with my curl. I'm going to use more of the natural fairway and kind of my shot making that I kind of set up to do, to just kind of naturally funnel it off the hill. And what I like to do is bring it with a little bit of speed. It does look like it does have a little bit, but I do think it is shooting just to the left of the hole. Didn't quite get up as high as I wanted it to. But you can see, nevertheless, not too bad of an attempt. So hopefully you guys can use that to your advantage. One of the things that I also want to mention is, especially on right to left winds, you might see me play the right side of the fairway. And you would do very similarly with a, distance-wise, I might play close to a max club, more spot up. because it is more towards min club if you go right. This is also very well done, so this could actually sneak in and beat mine. It had very good momentum. Looks like it's just stopping a little bit short. But all in all, not a bad attempt. That's more or less what I try to do, is just try to keep the ball moving down towards the hole. And you saw two pretty nice shots in there doing that. So one of the advantages to having, say, rock, you can just see. If you can see what the ball trail's doing, you can just, steal. It's like stealing. Once you learn the rings, it's just sick. You're just going to tear these shootouts up. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. But you always have to have those other factors in mind. That extra wind play for, how the shot downwind is going to, stretch out your ball guide, stuff like that. So that's why you see me doing a little bit more of an overplay there. But those are the types of things that you need to keep in mind. And you have great success, especially with rock, seeing all that extra ball guide and being able to execute the shots that way. So I am glad that, I get to show you a pretty successful stream with an unconventional club. Now, like I said, if your timing isn't super amazing with, perfect ball or even great ball. So let's say, you hit a lot of 2-ring, a lot of 3-ring pulls, especially on the drive. Like I mentioned, rock is going to be your savior. It's going to be a way better club than extra mile, tenfold. Like it's not even going to be close. So something to definitely think in mind, keep in mind there for, now look at what I'm doing here. You can see that, we are going to try to stay a little bit conservative. Like I said, from last time we played this, we don't need to launch it. Here you're going to see me play 12, 13 rings, somewhere in there, just gently curl it. Not much power, not much to this shot overall. We're just going to let kind of the natural, oh no, that was still too much power. So that just shows you kind of how little you actually need to do. So I ran out of fairway with that little bit of power. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that was too much. That little tiny bit that I put on was still too much. So a little unfortunate break there. On a hole like this, you would expect that it probably is going to cost you the hole on downwind. You have to assume that your opponent's probably going to execute. This is a very easy wind. Making a mental mistake like that isn't the end of the world. My ring play was solid. I just overestimated the power. So, for next time, just to kind of be a little bit more conservative with it. And, next time will be kind of a different beast. But let's just see, just for kicks, if we can't get to the shootout anyway. So let's see what kind of wind we're giving, and I'll tell you how I play this shot. So sometimes you may see me go over there. This is not going to be one of those. So what you're going to see me do here is more of a stop shot right around here. Try to keep it out of the tree view there. And in terms of rings, I need to go at least 5. There I go, 6. And great ball, not going to be the end of the world. More of just a stop shot. And, hopefully we can make that, because we're probably going to need to in order to make it to the tie break. But, what I shot there was only a mental mistake by about a yard. And, it's something that you can just learn from and just adjust in your next time. And not seeing the holes for a while or whatever can be enough to kind of confuse you. And, you get forgetful as to how, I knew it was going to overplay. So you saw me go extra rings there or whatever on the tee shot. But I didn't quite go enough in terms of power. I didn't correct for enough for it shooting downward. So just something that, you always got to kind of have on the forefront of your mind and just be smart about things. and hopefully you can eliminate, as most mental mistakes as possible. But at the very least, maybe you can, recover and still, get to the playoffs if you do make a mistake. We are going to get, very much more aggressive than I typically would here. So, I don't usually hit this shot down over the hill, but I am going to here because I think I can have just a tiny bit more precision. So you're going to see me play a little bit differently than I usually would. We are very much towards max club here. We are going to use, and I have no idea how much I need to overplay here. It's all a guess for me. It's a total guess. But I do know that you can see I'm going into power right now, so I'm going to need to overplay for sure, no question. So whatever I just did there, maybe it was 8.5 rings, perfect ball. And let's just see if we can't get this shooting down towards the hole and get lucky. Nope. So there it is, there you have it. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get a playoff hole and get to the shootout for a video for you guys. I am trying to get the new holes, but you can just see from this video how hard it is for me to actually get them. You see, hours of footage here. I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm at time-wise. I can't really pull that up, but we're quite a bit of time into this stream, and I already had an hour, and I've only seen 2 playoffs that are new holes. So, just kind of, might be kind of a little bit to, taking it upon yourselves to just kind of, mentally kind of think about things. And hopefully, especially with the new shot button that I'm showing you, especially if that's something that you have problems, which is counting rings, hopefully, it does take some practice. You're not just going to pick it up immediately. But hopefully with some practice, you can get that technique down and you can take advantage of these tour 10, tour 9, tour anything. This technique can be very useful, especially if, you're whatever. If you're lacking, a little bit of, whatever vision, be it, just the way that you can, be precise with your fingers or whatever it is. Hopefully, at the very least, using the shot button can be a useful tool, and you can be a little bit more precise that way. So good luck with that. And with that being said, let's continue on here. We are going to, what I like to do here is I don't go very aggressive at all. You can see here no powers right about there. So you're going to see me just kind of aim for about 5 rings here. And that's about it. So we're going to add just a little bit of power. Of course, precision, loss of precision, right or left, probably not going to be the end of the world with rock. So that's one of the beauties. You can see, 1 ring pull still right in the center of the fairway. Like, it's just crazy how simple this club is to play. And that's one of the biggest reasons that, I'm a big advocate of, trying to use it and take advantage of that. So let's see what this guy does here. What I like to do, especially with these rough irons, definitely, crank up the backspin a little bit. I would go even more than that on downwind. Maybe even another ring or two, bar or two of backspin before, pulling back for this shot. That is a highly unusual aim technique there. Sideways, eh? That was interesting. Not one that I'm familiar with, but there you have it. Let's see what I can do here with this hole. I pretty much just accept that I'm usually at mid-club here. That's why I kind of aim for this spot in between the 2 tree shadows there. I just accept it at about, what is it? I usually play at about 2 per ring, and we are going to do that similarly here. So here you're going to see me set up, on the fringe, kind of like this, where it's going to jump forward, and you might see me play, for example, 4.5, 4.7 rings, somewhere in there. That's what you're going to see me play here. Perfect ball. And at the very least, it's going to at least hit the cup or edge out, and it's going to help you be a little bit more precise with the way that you're pulling. Just keep in mind, like how I mentioned, I'm going to play it 2, 2.25. You need to go a little bit past that adjustment anytime that you have a side wind, because you're going to have a little bit of shot correction on top of that. So if it's coming in left to right, you're going to need to have to over adjust a little bit to the left, which is an over pull. So you're seeing me there go whatever, 4.7 rings, whatever I said, even though, in terms of landing zone, I probably only had to go spot on 4 rings. So you see me going that extra 0.7-ish rings just to kind of, straighten everything out and make it kind of shoot more towards the hole with the overplay. So keep that in mind for that one. And let's do another hole or two. You can see we're making, for the most part, relative quick work with Tour 10. I don't find it to be an overly challenging tour, but the holes that you can kind of come apart can be. So here you're going to see a very nice wind for us. If it wasn't, we would do a skip shot here, and we would play, about 6 rings. We would play about 6 rings, and we would go for that. But since we got the wind, we are going to do it a little bit differently. Go at it with some hook, maybe just a little bit of topspin, not too much. And I'm not even going to need that much side spin, but instead of correcting it, I am just going to counter it back a little bit. But like I said, you're not going to need that much curl, because I do have to, with the rock, I can't land it quite as left as I want. So there you see me just kind of curling it back. You only probably needed 3 or 4 side spin to get around there. But keep in mind, especially for your second shot, you don't know what the wind's going to be. You want to make sure you have a nice side spin ball. It's going to be ideal. And always keep in mind, don't topspin it too much there, and topspin it into the bunker, the rough. I think you saw me use 1. With a POC 5, that's going to be far too much, unless you were to, say, use no power. So if this guy goes as this with no power, it's going to be more ideal. But if he does go full, so another solution that he could be would be to put as much curl as he can, much power as he can, and that's kind of what you see him doing. And he can end up getting right enough of the bunker and give himself a nice long iron if he does this just right. So let's see if he looks like he just did enough. So that just kind of shows you. But one of the things that I just want to point out is you don't need to hit that shot to win this game. So that's where rock can come in handy. I can still win this game without hitting that drive. So I just want to make that point clear to you, that it's not the end of the world if that happens. You can see I was almost towards max club here. I am going to pull a little bit. So at max club, I'm about 2 per ring. You're going to see me go at least 6 or 7 rings here, somewhere in between those two, because like I mentioned, you do need to do a little bit of an overplay. So we are going to keep that in mind here and go right around, what is that, 6.7 rings or so. Perfect ball. Like I said, that overplay is always a technique that you just kind of got to always keep in mind, because of it's so right to left that the wind's going to overplay, and it's going to kind of re-change the way that those second and third bounces show on your ball guide. So always keep that in mind. Make sure you're doing some kind of either an overcorrection if you can, or if you can't, put some counter spin which would be, for instance of that shot, maybe about 1.5 bars to 2 bars would be an alternate method of, an overplay, which I was doing. Another correction method would be if you were to counter curl it. So I could, for instance, play half a ball's worth of curl, or maybe 3/4 of a ball of curl, to just counter that wind and play the wind more spot up. So if I say it's right at 2 per ring and I played it spot up 5.5 rings or whatever, then that counter curl would take care of that. So you're going to see those as being, one of those 3 methods you always need to be thinking about. And if you ever see a player who's not, doing any overcorrection at all, they're usually, kind of easy pickings, because you'll see their shots and it's, as soon as that wind gets up to 7, 8, 10, that's a guarantee that they're going to be off by about 4 yards. So it's something that you always need to kind of visually be thinking about. So always, be factoring that in when taking any shot, especially in the higher tours, from 5 on. And here you're seeing we are getting this hole again. And I think we might just maybe finish off with this video. I have a couple things that I've been thinking about. I know I need to go back and I want to pull the shootout from the very first shootout here, and I do want to add that to the hole, to my, I want to try to find a couple of these and kind of put them in my Tour 10 shootout. And hopefully that'll benefit you guys and you'll be able to use that. And in the meanwhile, let's see if I can't remember what I like to do here. So let's think about this. I usually use 4 bars to backspin, which means with a 3-wood, it will be about 6 bars. Notice how we're into the wind. One of the things that people don't usually think about is going into the next club. Now, first off, let's take a look at the fairway here and just kind of see what it looks like. Kind of line it up with the hole, and then we're going to do the same thing, but with the next hole, with the next club up. So there you can see that's about 6. And you can just kind of visualize the spot. That's probably right around 8 rings, to be honest with you. So this is probably relatively spot on what we want to do. Now we do want to stay a little bit conservative with the way that we do this, just because that hill's there. And you saw him roll down it, so you're going to see me play a little bit more conservative, shoot it out to the left, and you saw me even great ball to the left. And you can see we can make pretty easy work of it. About 6 bars of backspin when you have to go up to a wood. We're more at min distance, so I play it more at max distance straight up. So when I usually said that I play it about 20% extra, well, if we're right at min club, the ball is going to kind of shoot down at a lower trajectory, and I might just play it max straight up. So if it was 8 miles per hour, I try to visualize 8 rings as a landing zone, and I just try to get a feel for how that ball is going to respond there and play accordingly. So that's what you see me doing there. And good luck with everything that you saw in these videos. Hopefully you can get a sense of the way that I'm showing you guys how to play rings, be a little bit more precise. Hopefully you're getting a grasp of these shootouts as well. As you can see, they can be highly manageable. I don't think this is the most challenging tour. You just have to, your level of thinking just needs to be at a high level. You need to always be thinking about those shot corrections and what you need to do post-wind. After that wind plays, you have to always be constantly thinking about what extra needs to be done and executing. And like I said, if you do something wrong, just try your best to learn from that mistake and correct it next time. Keep it on the forefront. Always remember your misses more so than your makes. That's the most important, because if they stick out in your mind, then next time around you'll be, hey, I did this wrong. It'll click and you won't make the same mistake twice. So good luck with everything in Tour 10, and with the shot shape arrow, using the shot button as a guide as well. And let me know how that goes. I'll see you guys on the next ones. So good luck.